These processes of assigning CSS, it is procedural. And he has followed the procedure.
And it's constitutional.
Which is constitutional.
But the timeline?
And tomorrow...
And the timeline?
Come again?
And the timeline?
The timeline is within... the only thing he did is to name the nominees.
No, I'm saying the timeline in which you do this. Like, this is the first time, by the way, in Kenyan history that we are seeing we are still continuing without a sitting cabinet.
What is government making sure that the chances of success for the young people is actually increased?
The chances of success that are going to be improved are this. You understand that the structure of this Hustlers Fund is not to an individual. That is one thing that it is very clear. It is either you are in a circle, you are in a group, or you are in an association that is doing something meaningful.
That's true, but
yes.
That is not different from the youth fund and all that, who require you to be like 10 groups of members or in a group of, in a group rather. Let me hear your views on the Hustler Fund, because Hannah, I know you wanted to say something about that.
So actually Diana was going to say something, but my question is the same that she has asked. What's new or mind-blowing about this whole thing? Because it's just replicating what was there and giving it a new term and slogan. And then why can't I access it as an individual if I'm a sole proprietor? Why do I have to work with you, Diana, Nelson, 4 of you, if we don't have the same vision? So you see, it's also closing out some of us who, from what you've said, you see? And that's my question about this. And also she spoke about the interest rate. So
I don't mind the interest rate, because I also agree we should not bring up a lazy generation.
Yes,
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
But how do you, maybe you can answer her question.
The thing is this, you see, I'll give it an example, maybe for us to better understand it. We had the Uhuru presidency. That was a presidency. That was, the president was one.
The office of the presidency is 2.
Okay, I know that's a touchy subject, so let's say we understand what he's saying.
Yes, I just want to bring out something.
Uhuru was the president.
Yes. And the same structures in government are the same structures that are there with William Ruto. True or false? But the end results will be different. The same thing with Hustler Fund. People are saying, oh, it is the same with the Uwezo Fund and all those funds. You see, the creators of those Uwezo Fund had a particular end goal in mind. You get me? The kazi kwa vijana, the sweeping and all garbage collection. Someone had an end in mind. But William Ruto, His Excellency the President, during the economic forums, this is not something that he just built by himself.
I'm sure.
He is a bottom-up person.
We understand.
You got me? So he got the insights.
So what is different?
What is different is, this Hustlers Fund is going to be run based on the needs of the people who want the money, not based from up, down. You got me?
Let me also just say something.
Yes.
One thing that I think that is unique about the Hustler Fund is how it has mutated. In July, we were told by His Excellency, William Ruto, that the Hustler Fund was going to be a grant. And then after inauguration, he said the Hustler Fund will be a single-digit loan. And then now, most recently, he said, actually, it's a savings program where when you save, you'll get 50% returns.
He wants to refute that point.
So for me, it's those ones for like, what is showing for me personally as a youth is that Kenya Kwanza was built on sloganism. That there's really nothing, all this just seems to be nice slogans, but really it's like what Hannah said, Hustler Fund, Uwezo Fund.
You think they're all the same?
It just all looks the same. And it's the same thing that makes people apathetic, and a lot of youth apathetic, is that this political class just seems to be the same.
But how do we change that? That's my question. How do we make sure, for example, let's even just take the Hustler Fund, how do we make sure it's not the same?
You see, that's what I was going to ask, because he said it's coming up new with the vision someone has for it. But if you're putting people with questionable character as the leaders, and then what we are looking, and I'm going to give you the benefit of doubt, he's our president. But if it's leaders with questionable character, then running this, and that's the same thing we're complaining about as youth, then what's the change we are going to see? What's the end goal if the same people, just my point on corruption.
Let's tidy up the Hustler Fund issue,
yes.
And maybe let me say this. Again, having worked in government, one of the things that you transition from elections to policy is that you come in and you realize there's some restrictions. Even if you have the best of intentions, there's a way you have to fit within the law, you have to fit within the existing structures, or even put new structures in place. So you find that or even you realize this thing may not be sustainable the way I thought. So you have to be able to now work within certain confines. So I'm not surprised that it's morphing, and what I think we should then hold them accountable to is that there's a Hustler Fund. The final picture of what it would look like would probably be what is going to be launched on the 1st of December, which is when they're launching the Hustler Fund. But the question is, or the issue is, there has to be something different, and it has to address the challenges that were there with the previous funds. Where, for example, you're giving young people, they take the money, but they're not able to use it effectively. And they're not able to repay it.
And the corruption.
And then the bureaucracy,
And
also,
the
and the
corruption.
bottlenecks
All
to
right,
get
let's
in
transition
this.
to the corruption based on, because of the questionable character you're talking about.
Just before that, even the people, even just accessing these funds, there were so many bottlenecks. So if a young person who is not very educated but is running a business, who has to first pay to register, pay their 5,000, their 3,000, there were so many bottlenecks to this. And UDA has said that they are going to remove some of these things. So, and that's why I'm saying I'm going to give them the benefit of doubt. It's the first few days of their, and maybe next year we can sit back here in 2
Yeah, we
years
can come back
and
and
discuss
see.
how far we've come.
So we give
But
them a
the
bit of
bureaucracy,
breathing space.
yes, the bureaucracy and bottlenecks that were there, I hope they are going to remove that. But on the question of corruption, when we see, and me, I'm big on that. I think you'll hear me talking about that as much as Honorable Martha Karua did. If you're going to have, the first thing that we saw in the news last month, people with questionable character, because of how they were aligned, their cases are being thrown out. Those are the same people who will be running this government, running all these funds. Me as a young person, how can I trust this government that's already giving me reasons to doubt in the first 3 months?
And she's probably speaking for those who didn't vote for Kenya Kwanza.
Or
Even
Azimio.
those who did,
Or-
because there are
or
people
Azimio,
who,
because
there are
a third
people
of the
who
country
did,
didn't
there are
vote.
people who voted for UDA and are now disappointed. They're like, how can you hire this person? How can you throw out this case?
Yeah,
You know?
My thoughts are these, just to wrap up on the Hustler Fund idea. One, she mentioned about something called saving, on how the president has transitioned from this, and that. One thing that we need to appreciate is during the campaigns, there was no major time to expound on the vision and the idea that, but he could pop it up and say, as hustlers or as low-income earners or as Kenyans, this is how I intend to inspire this growth. But now, when you transition all through, there is something that is very critical that the president brought out, the issue of savings. We might take it on a lighter note, but it is something that has made countries grow, transform.
So that one you all agree with.
You get me?
It's a game changer.
And the president, during those economic forums, he noticed that these small business people or these entrepreneurs, they get to a space where they are not even able to save. And we saw it happen during the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
Most of us young people, let me say myself included, I realized the savings that I had were so little to help me manage through the process, because it was going to be indefinite, this COVID scenario. You get me? And this is a president who sees the future and says, no, look, as much as this Hustler Fund is there is a way I want us to do it, in that, as I give you this money to do business, remember, every sale you make, put this portion aside as you're saving. We have seen what cooperatives have done. We have seen what Mwalimu Sacco has done. If you go to my village, where most of the people there are teachers, you'll find they have a beautiful land, they have a house, you get me? A permanent house, not a muddy. But what has inspired? The police officers who are bright
It's
enough.
through the savings scheme.
It is through the
All
savings
right.
scheme.
So I want to go back
Can
to
I-
my question. Okay,
Yes.
you want to comment on
Yeah,
that?
I want to comment
so briefly, then we
on
can
the
transition
savings,
to
right?
something else. Yeah.
I agree with you that the savings culture is something that could really change, especially for the youth. However, you cannot tell someone who's living hand to mouth, doesn't have access to proper government services to save.
Okay.
I think the first thing a government would do that cares for the youth is ensure that these guys have access to their basic needs, and then from that bottom part of the pyramid, then now teach them the skills to be able to be self-sustaining.
So that's actually transitioning to what I wanted to ask. You had asked earlier, what is this government doing to address the cost of living? So what is government doing right now? Because even the Hustler Fund is medium term.